Welcome to UND Sports Extra, our season debut for year 4 of UND Sports Extra here on Midco Sports Network. We're glad you along. I'm your host, Dan Hammer. Coming up on tonight's show, we'll preview North Dakota's football season opener as UND travels to Wyoming this weekend. Head coach Bubba Schweigert will join us in just a couple of minutes. Also on tonight's show, we'll check in with men's basketball coach Brian Jones. His team recently took a trip to Europe, playing games against teams from Italy and France. And we'll also check in with UND volleyball coach Mark Pryor. His team fresh off its season opening tournament this past weekend, bound for another tournament this coming weekend. The University of North Dakota travels to Laramie, Wyoming this weekend to open the 2015 football season, year 2 under our first guest tonight, football coach, head coach Bubba Schweigert. Bubba, welcome back to UND Sports Extra. Here we go into season 2 for you and your staff. What's the biggest difference between season 1 and season 2?
Well, first of all, it's an exciting time of year, but the biggest difference now, we've worked together an entire season, and I think you just get more comfortable with each other and how we operate. Comfort's probably not the greatest word to use, but because we're still on edge, looking forward to the opener, but we're more familiar with each other, and players know the expectations. We know what we want to communicate to the players and how we go about our game prep and our game day business. So we're much farther ahead in that area.
And still a young football team. When he said 25 players who will make the trip to Laramie this weekend are making their first ever road trip as a college football player?
Yeah, that's true. We'll have at least 25 at this point is the plan, of guys that are taking their first trip with UND, summer transfers. But we are a young football team, and therefore it's very important how we prepare, because this will be a first-time experience for those guys, and we got to be really on schedule and on top of how we get them ready for this trip.
Well, one of the stories coming out of fall camp was the quarterback competition. After some injuries last year to Joel Moberg and Ryan Bartles, it thrust then true freshman Keaton Studrud into the starting role. He started the final 4 games of the season, won the job in fall camp. He'll be your starter Saturday in Laramie. How has he matured this year, Bubba?
Well, we're happy with Keaton's progress. During the spring, he really accepted that role as the quarterback of the team and really worked hard to learn our system and really be a leader. And that's a leadership role that continues throughout the day and throughout the weeks. And then the summertime, we felt he had a good summer as well as the other guys. We really did have an open competition. And then, we just felt that it was time to announce that Keaton was a starter and let the team know. And he's embraced the role, and we're going to challenge him to keep getting better and better, and there's so many things that a young guy can improve on, the huddle presence and, physical skills, footwork, and, he does a lot for us mentally. So there's a number of things he continues to just really strive to work on, but we're happy with the effort he's putting forth.
Well, here's what Studrud himself thinks about his transition from being that true freshman last year and starting into year 2 in college football.
Mentally is just the biggest thing. I made a huge jump, just like knowing the offense more, just more in sync with Coach Rudolph. Those are the biggest things that help. Slows the game down a lot. Well, if I'm up to pace with the offense, then we're all clicking on the same cylinder and know what to expect from each other, and everything just slows down. The more you know, the slower things go. The less you know, faster things go, and it definitely has helped.
He's earned a lot of trust with you and offensive coordinator Paul Rudolph. He makes a lot of checks at the line of scrimmage, doesn't he?
Yeah, our quarterback has a huge responsibility, and he spent a lot of time with Coach Rudolph and continues to spend that time. And really, the coordinator and the play caller and the quarterback really need to be on the same page.
All right, coming up next on UND Sports Extra, our season debut, we'll continue to visit with Bubba. We'll take a look at some freshmen to watch and transfers to watch, and also preview UND's date with Wyoming coming up on Saturday.
UND Sports Extra on Midco Sports Network is presented by the University of North Dakota, RydellCars.com, and Hugo's Family Marketplace.
Welcome back. We're visiting with head football coach Bubba Schweigert. His team opens the season Saturday at Wyoming. Bubba, let's talk about some newcomers into your program this year, including a number of transfers who are on the 2 deep. Some are starting, and a group of guys that will definitely help you this year.
Well, first of all, at safety, we felt we needed to add some athleticism to the position, and Felt like Juwan Johnson and Zach Arnell were two of those people. They were here in the spring. Zach was unable to participate fully in spring ball, but has had really a good fall camp. And then, Clive Georges on the offensive side, transferred in here, and I felt that he really came on late in fall camp. And then at the corner position, Jameer Sills, a guy who just got in here this summer. We look for him to make an impact on our team.
Zach Arnell won a starting job at safety. 6'2", tall, rangy, the kind of safety you like in your defense?
Yeah, he's able to cover a lot of ground. He's willing to come up and run support, and just really had a good fall camp, and he really has earned that starting role.
Yeah, he's alongside Cole Reyes. Gives you two pretty physical safeties in your defense these days.
Yeah, and the way we play, we got to be pretty good at that position. We ask those guys to do a lot of things, both mentally and physically, and we really felt we needed to improve at that position to become a better third down defense and better overall defense.
All right, upwards of 8 or 9 true freshmen will travel this weekend. Some will play. Not all are guaranteed to play, but a few freshmen that are figure to be in the mix this weekend, Bubba. Running back, wide receiver John Santiago, nose guard Steve Greer, and cornerback Tyus Carter. They're going to see the football field on Saturday, aren't they?
Yeah, they will, and John really kept showing up practice after practice, and he started camp at receiver, and now we've moved him to running back, and we like what he's doing out there. Steve Greer, big physical guy, coming into camp. We felt he was one of the guys that probably would be a guy that could play right away, and he's shown the physical ability to do that. And then Tyus Carter, really athletic out at corner, and we're really looking forward to his development in our program.
The running back position hits with some injuries in camp, but Jawan Arrington went down with an injury. Awari Smith was sidelined for a bit. So was Brady Oliveira. And then that opened the door somewhat for John Santiago. Right now, he's number 1 on your depth chart, the young freshman from St. Francis, Minnesota.
Yeah, sometimes these things happen in our game. Guys go down and other guys get opportunities, and you got to make some decisions as coaches. And John's done a good job of handling that. And hopefully we get those other guys back and get them in the mix. But right now, this is where we sit with our football team.
Now, yesterday in practice, your running backs were healthy. So do you know what your mix might look like Saturday in Laramie?
Still working through that. We know it's going to be by committee. And, Kyle Nordberg has had a good camp, has been very solid. And John, they've been getting most of the reps, so they're the most prepared. But we got to really get the guys reps who we feel will get in the mix on Saturday.
Well, they're running behind an offensive line that has some experience, including Brandon Anderson, who will be making his 34th career start on Saturday. And Anderson told me he expects the offensive line to set the tone of physicality this season.
We're definitely going to be in charge of the game. That's the way it's going to be. The offense is ran that way. So we got to get all these guys going in the same direction, and I think we're going to surprise a lot of people and hit them in the mouth. We knew coming into fall camp it was going to be on us. It starts up front. And so if we can't get it started, nothing's going to happen.
How about that, Bubba?
Well, our offensive line, we really challenged those guys throughout the winter and spring and summer to get better. We need to be more consistent up front, and everybody knows we want to run the football, and it all starts with those guys. So we got to really operate well as a unit and keep challenging those guys to play good physical football.
All right, let's talk about Wyoming, and certainly a well-known commodity because of the associations, the coaching challenges that you faced before with Craig Bowl when he was head coach at NDSU, Brent Vegan, offensive coordinator, Scott Fuchs, offensive line coach, A.J. Cooper. Of course, you and Coach Schmidt coached against them when you guys were at Southern Illinois. So the book is out there on both your teams, is it not?
Well, I think somewhat. We're familiar with them, and they are with us. And we know one thing going in the game. They will be a well-coached football team on offense, defense, and special teams. And that's what we're preparing for. And, we're still going to be different. We're at different places and have different teams. And we expect that we're going to have to make some adjustments during the game on Saturday. But the base stuff, we know who they want to be, and they know who we want to be. So I think the base stuff will remain the same, but there will be adjustments that need to be made.
Bubba, if there are a couple position areas that you look at this season that will need to take some steps forward if your football team is to do that, what would they be?
Well, I think our offensive line needs to be better than a year ago, and we really feel that we've made some progress there, but it still is a work in progress. We keep challenging those guys, and we need to be more consistent on offense, and you do that by being consistent up front. Defensively, the secondary has to play better, in particular at corner. We've got to play better with balls in the air, and then we felt we improved at safety with athleticism. And we'll see where those two positions end up as the season goes along. But, we want to get better at all places, but those are two areas that we need to be much more consistent.
The season has arrived. Bubba, good chatting with you again. We're back next week to recap your game at Wyoming, which will be Saturday afternoon in Laramie. Back with more on UND Sports Extra next.
UND Sports Extra on Midco Sports Network is presented by the University of North Dakota, RydellCars.com, and Hugo's Family Marketplace.
Welcome back. It's the first week of September, but we're talking men's basketball. Head coach Brian Jones is with us. Brian, his staff and team just recently returning from a trip to Italy, spending time in France and Italy, actually, a European tour. First time you've done this type of thing in your tenure at UND, Brian?
Yes, it's been a long time coming, but it was an unbelievable trip, not only for obviously our guys, but our staff. It was just a great time to get together and learn about the cultures but obviously learn about one another as a group.
Yeah, give the folks an overview of your trip. How many games you played, the areas you visited, those type of things.
Well, we played 4 games. We spent 3 days in Rome, 3 days in Florence, Italy, and three days in Nice, France. So it was a lot of things compact into one. We literally sightseed and did a lot of traveling during the day and played at night. So it was just a great experience. There's so much history, so much culture to see over there, and not enough time, but the group that took us over did an unbelievable job, and our guys, I truly felt that they were truly humbled and truly grateful for this life experience. Yeah. And I truly feel this is going to bring strong dividends as we move forward through this season.
Yeah. Well, as you said, it was a cultural experience and a basketball experience. You have 6 players who are new to your program as you head toward the season. All are eligible to play this season. So what did it do for a team-building aspect?
Well, I think the biggest thing is when you do these type of trips, you want to continue to build the chemistry between the lines, obviously, but outside the lines. They're both equally important. And I think that's what we saw. We had 6 new faces, and we have talented newcomers. I really will say that. And I'm so impressed with the positive energy moving past last year. It has a lot to do with our older guys, but just our new guys are fearless and unselfish. So it was. We played 3 of the 4 games were high-level competition for us, and just learning how to win again. That's what was important about this. Learning how to win again.
Went 4-0 in 4
exactly.
games.
And one of the teams we beat Georgetown. They beat Drake. They beat Stony Brook, who won 23 games last year. So
what was the level of competition like overall?
I would say they were more like mid-major teams. Again, they're professionals. Now they're a lot like us. They're only 10 days. As far as practicing, getting into these things, but it was getting used to the style of play and the refereeing and all these gyms. What you're not seeing, it's about 110 degrees in these gyms, so it was just tough for our guys to get used to that early.
Yeah. Did you get out of it from a player personnel standpoint what you were hoping to, and get to see these guys in game action and how they played with their different rotations, the basketball end of it?
I did. Obviously, there were some younger guys that probably didn't get as many minutes as we had hoped. But as we're going to talk about, that was 4 games. We still have 30 practices until anything is situated. So, but yeah, I think as a whole, we truly got out what we wanted. There was growth outside of basketball. There was growth, obviously, between the lines as well.
Mm-hmm. And culturally, wow. You take a look at some of this video that was shot by Ryan Powell and the sports information staff. If you've never been there, that's pretty jaw-dropping images here.
Get that, just a couple more years. But yeah, it was unbelievable. We had great tour guides, very, very knowledgeable. Obviously, there's so much history there, and you realize how young our country is. But beautiful. Look at that. I mean, the French Riviera and just as we're seeing, I think the churches and even the Leaning Tower of Pisa, there's the Vatican. Man, it's breathtaking, just the beauty and of the countries that we saw and the places that we saw.
Really a once-in-a-lifetime trip for your young players.
It was. Oh, you see my son yawning. He's the tour guide there. But, it was. I think even for us as adults, it was. It was just, we had new staff members. So it was a chance for us to continue to grow as a family, as a staff. The wives were able to go. So it was great for our players to see us in a different light. And you don't always talk about those things. They allowed us to see us around our families, and I think that's our biggest job as coaches is to make our athletes better women and better men And I think that's the biggest thing that I think all of us are trying to do.
All right. Thanks, Brian, for stopping by. We'll see you again as we get closer to the men's basketball season. But thanks for sharing the trip to Italy and France.
Great. Thanks.
Looks like a great time. We're back with volleyball coach Mark Pryor next.
UND Sports Extra on Midco Sports Network is presented by the University of North Dakota, RydellCars.com, and Hugo's Family Marketplace.
The UND volleyball team opened the season last weekend at the Cyclone Classic in Ames, Iowa, going 1-2. North Dakota defeated defending Atlantic 10 champion Dayton before falling to Marquette and nationally ranked Iowa State. Head coach Mark Pryor returning to UND Sports Extra. Good to be back with you again, sir.
Good to see you.
What did you think of the weekend overall?
Of course I was pleased. It'd be really nice to get another win.
Yeah.
Very, very close. In both matches we lost. 4 points, 2 in each set, separate a win from Marquette and a loss. Marquette right now is just outside the top 25. So, it was encouraging to see us play that well against some really high competition.
Well, you seemed encouraged. This is what you said after the tournament was completed. Quote, "For me personally, this was the most fun coaching I've had in about 6 or 7 years. This team is just so enjoyable to work with on a daily basis."
It's they're good kids.
Yeah.
That makes it so enjoyable. And they understand the process. They understand that this first weekend was less about X's and O's and more about effort and how are we going to play. And when things get tough, well, what are we going to do? We're down 4-0 in the fifth set against Dayton, and I looked out and they were laughing. And I was like, they're pretty loose. We're going to be fine. So that was really encouraging to see.
Yeah. Very young team, 8 freshmen. 3 sophomores of your 15 members on the team.
Yes. It's one of those things that even on Saturday when we were playing, we had a timeout and we just kind of called the team over. And some of the freshmen you could tell that the day 2 is a little harder. Day 1, it's all fun. Everybody's excited. Day 2, in front of a large Iowa State crowd, you could tell some of the freshmen were struggling a little bit. And we just said, hey, guys, sorry, but you've got to perform. And some of them responded pretty well. It was good to see.
I'd like you to tell us about a few freshmen who will be regular contributors to your team this weekend. And they made their debuts last week. Courtney Place, young woman out of Lake Okabena, Minnesota. And when you first told me about her, you said she's long. My goodness, is she long. She's 6'2", but look at the length of her arms.
I'm just going to say that she's proportionate.
Yes.
Okay? She does it. She strikes the ball at a high point. That really helps out. We have not had a left side hitter with that length in a while. She does a really good job as far as slowing down some right side hitters. The biggest thing about Courtney is Courtney passes the ball really well. She's probably one of our better passers right now. So being 6'2" and having good touch on the ball, that really helps us out with her being able to contact the ball in the back row and the front row.
All right, another freshman that fans will hear a lot of this year, Amanda Harnett from Burlington, Ontario. In your inter-squad game last week, I watched her, and the word I thought was springy. She seems to be very springy and has an incredibly quick release on her shot.
She hits the ball really hard. She puts some pace on it. The one thing fans will probably be reminded a little bit of Lexi Robinson from the year before. With Amanda, with her being left-handed, with her being such a competitive kid, she's going to score a good amount, and she does get off the floor pretty quick. She's deceptive. She had, I think, 8 blocks against Iowa State, and she's 5'9" on a good day.
Yeah. Danae Dominguez comes from Churchill High School in San Antonio, one of the top prep programs in the country. What will she bring to your program?
Her and she has a lot. Her and Mackenzie Hart have got a lot of the same qualities. They're unbelievably athletic, love to be on the floor, love to play the game, and they've got a really good volleyball IQ. With both of them on the floor, that really helps out as far as just letting us get the ball to the big kids. The little kids have got to make all those really tough plays in the back row. They don't get a lot of credit for. She is one of the most competitive kids in our gym on a day in and day out basis, so it's nice to have that.
What are you looking for in your transition from week 1 to week 2 as you head to Omaha this weekend?
It's a trap weekend for us. There's no doubt. For us to play as well as we did against that type of competition, now we can't be satisfied with that. We've got to maintain that. We've got to maintain that composure and maintain that drive. If we can do that, we've got a really good chance to be successful.
You'll go to Omaha this weekend, and then a week from tonight, your home opener against South Dakota State. We'll have that for you live here on Midco Sports Network. Good chatting with you.
Sounds
again.
good.
We're back with more right after this.
UND Sports Extra on Midco Sports Network is presented by the University of North Dakota, RydellCars.com, and Hugo's Family Marketplace.
One week from tonight, September 8th, North Dakota opens its home portion of its volleyball schedule, hosting South Dakota State. You'll see that match live on Midco Sports Network, 7 o'clock a week from tonight. And because of our live coverage of North Dakota, South Dakota State volleyball, UND Sports Extra, for next week only, will move to 9 p.m. Central Time. So again, a week from tonight, North Dakota and South Dakota State volleyball live at 7 p.m. and UND Sports Extra, well, they're at 9 p.m. Central Time a week from tonight. And during UND Sports Extra, we'll recap North Dakota's season opener in football against Wyoming. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.